Okay, I've had enough of this guy on Facebook. They're all talking about the insurrection. And they're talking about how this officer killed the one unarmed person who tried to breach the Senate floor. Oh, she was unarmed. That officer was wrong. One, that officer's duty and job was to maintain the barricade of the room and to protect every member, including the Republican members of Congress that was in that room. Two, the woman that breached that room, Miss Bubba, she was a trained officer, first of all, a member of the military. Secondly, before she went in that room, she handed a weapon off to the people who were still outside the room. Okay? As she was climbing into the room, the officer showed up with the gun and warned her to back out. The people outside the room warned her the man had the gun. And instead of backing out, she continued to try to enter that room and ended up getting shot. Now I'm going to put something to you. And I want you to think honestly. And I want you to think hard on it. Now say you and your family are barricaded in your living room. Because outside you are hearing these gang members. They're beating on people on the street. They're breaking into their homes and harming these people. And you have a gun. Now, one of those gang members, say a small woman, starts to break into your home in a small breach that she has found. You see her. She had just handed a gun off to her friends. You see her. You warn her to back out. Her friends warn her, you have a gun. But she continues to try to proceed into your home. Do you shoot her or not? Or do you take the chances that she does climb into the room and possibly has a weapon in her waist belt, because you can't tell if she does or does not? Or that one of her gang members reaches their hand in through the place where she enters and fires a gun at you, and then unblocks that barricade and kills your fucking family. What are you going to do? Are you going to give her the chance to harm your family? When you can't see whether or not she has a weapon, are you going to do that? Because she happens to be a small woman and you can't see the gun in her hand. Her hands aren't up in the air once she gets in. What if she doesn't put her hands up in the air? What if she reaches in her waist belt and pulls out a gun and shoots the officer? What if one of the people outside the room who have her gun reaches in and shoots the officer? She gets in that room, that barricade is breached. And it increases the chances that the rest of the members of her gang can get in and do harm and kill people and harm people and do whatever they choose. So stop your stupid crap. They didn't find the one and only person who wasn't armed. No, they found the one person who handed her weapon a weapon that one of the weapons, or possibly the only weapon she had, to another member of her group. There was many people in that terrorist group that did not have a gun. There was many of them who didn't pick up a flagpole or a crutch or a fire extinguisher to beat on officers. There was many people who used their own body as the weapon. The only reason why more people didn't get shot is because the officers chose not to. Because they weren't looking at that moment at terrorists, which they were. They were looking at what they thought were American citizens, fellow countrymen. But I guarantee you that if they were a foreign entity, if they wore rags on their head, if they spoke with foreign accents, those officers would have found no qualm in opening fire. Especially after 5 of their own were murdered by these people. And you're complaining about one. Them people are damn lucky more didn't get shot and killed. They're extremely lucky they didn't get shot and killed. Because in any other scenario, that's what would have happened. They would have been shot and killed to protect the White House. And you know that. And you know damn well if somebody did the same thing to your own home, where your wife and your children and maybe even your parents were sheltering from harm, you would have done the same damn thing. So stop your whine, baby. The woman got shot. It was her own fault. She did not back out when she was warned. That was her own doing. Trying to breach that room in the first place warranted her to be shot in the protection of the Congress people who were in that room. And if you can't get that, then 1, you're looking at it very biasedly. And 2, you're not thinking. Those were not insurrectionists, and at that moment they were not American citizens. They were a group of terrorists, hell-bent on subverting a constitutional process that our government had a right to proceed in, without interference from anybody. And those that broke in there were no different than the people who hijacked the airplanes and ran them into the Twin Towers to try and change how our government operates. They were no different. Each and every one of them who breached that White House, and if it was you, you are nothing but terrorists. And that's all the more the majority of Americans are going to see you as. 60 court hearings said there were no instances of fraud in the election. They had no proof of fraud. Trump's own judicial members stated that the lawsuits were baseless. Barr stated there was no fraud. And every recount showed there was no fraud. Oh, wait, should say there was no widespread fraud. Because there was certainly fraud from the guy in Georgia, the Republican politician, who went and signed his dead mother's ballot to turn it in. In 2016, there was fraud here in Iowa by 2 people, and both of them Trump voters. They voted absentee, and then they tried to vote in person because they believed Trump's bullshit that the election was rigged. Guess what? That's a federal offense. Guess where they're sitting now? Guess what they lost? They lost the right to vote in any election ever again. So please, thank you, excuse me. Knock your shit off. Start looking at the facts and start thinking about what that woman was doing breaking into the Senate floor as if it was a bunch of gang members trying to break into your home. And then tell me what you would have done.